Alright, quick little thing. The bolts that go in here are 7/16 by 20. Because this is a Datsun 520 frame. It is SAE. So the bolts go in there, but as you can see, let me loosen the other one up here just a bit. So as you can see, the hole is way too big. Okay. I don't think you can, yeah, quite obvious in the thing there. Okay, so I want to be able to center it. So, machine down these aluminum spacers. They would be steel in the end. I haven't test fit these first. Every now and then there's some burrs and bugs. There we go. Okay, so that fits in there real nice. Then the bolt fits in, and so I still need to make the spacer to take up the thickness in here. I'm just using washers for now, but that'll keep the bolt centered, or the shaft centered on the bolt nicely. So I'll put some spacers in here and tighten up this side, then take care of the other side there, and that'll take all the slop out of the upper control arm mount. Okay, so I've got spacers in each side there, and I've got them just finger tight here, so you can see that the movement isn't. There's very little movement in relation to the bolt. Of course, now the bolt, since it's so long, is actually rocking back and forth in the threads. Once it's tightened up, won't do that, and it would do it even do it less too if I had a solid block in there instead of the washers. We'll get that on. Get that on good and snug. I'll measure that spacing. I'll double check that that's exactly where the arm needs to be, and then I'll move on to machining the solid spacer. All right, I got the arm anchored down tight with the bolts and everything like that, and I took the bolts out of the ball joint here, so you can see that, you know, yeah, there's a little side to side that's expected. There's no tension rod connected up or anything like that. You know, and there's a little play fore and aft here. So basically we're in a sweet spot. You know, the arm just drops right in there. And so I can just quite easily thread these in without any binding and that stuff. So basically what I'm showing here, the point I'm trying to make, is that the spacing I have with the washers holding the arm, the shaft, the upper control arm shaft away from the shock tower, that is the thickness I'm going to want to make the new spacer. So I'll take a look at that. Probably what I'll do is I'll make it just a hair thinner. Let's see if we can, will it move over? Oh, well, close enough. Basically, I'll just make it a hair thinner so that then these body shims can go in. Okay, so I haven't decided yet if it's going to be 1 or 2 shims, probably just 1 shim. But that gives the ability to move the top of the wheel out if need be. And the nice thing with this is too, is once the spacer's machined, it can always be ground thinner. You know, if for whatever reason it's got to let the arm go out toward the wheel even farther. So, and actually, what we've talked about, Dave and I, is making one, you know, that's like a 1/2 inch thick, 9/16 thick. Making another one that's like a 1/2 inch thick. So depending on how much drop the person has on how much they've lowered the torsion bars and that stuff already, it might give them some more room to push the top of the wheel back out. So we'll see. Time to measure that, and I think actually before I start making that, I will work on the tension control rod mount and stuff like that. There's no point in me machining another block until I get the rest of that figured out. Alright, a little more work on the ball joint mod for the Datsun pickups. Basically, this is the underside of the 720 hard body press-in ball joint lower control arm. Okay, this is the stock tension control rod for the that matches that lower control arm. So as you can see, the angle, you know, basically this arm, the truck that came off, was a lot wider, and so the angle's basically the same, and it should move out. Now, Also, too, we took 1.25 inches out of here, 1.125 inches. So, you know, if that rides in the middle of those, you know, that would have put it over here roughly where my thumb is. It'd still be a couple inches too off. Now, a couple things we could do. We could bend it in here and make it line up. That may end up having to be what we do, but what I'm thinking is creating a nut plate basically for inside, and then slotting these holes slightly so that this will twist. So just to kind of get a visual on that, if we, oh yeah, that's perfect. I like that idea better than slotting. So if I put it up in line this way with the hole, we're perfect. We're flat up against the bottom of the control arm here. So then if I also put it up here where the angle is, I am almost exactly perpendicular to the plate down here. And so you can see there's plenty of room here. This is plenty deep enough and everything. I'll have to find some kind of bushing option and stuff like that, and then the hole in the truck mount there will have to be opened up a bit. I've heard of other people doing it. I haven't figured out yet exactly what bushings, but just as an example, as long as we're shooting the video there, you get an idea here. Maybe, if you can see. Okay, this is the stock tension rod. Okay, now I could mount it in here, and I could make a plate to mount on there. But this is a weenie of a plate, or a bar rather. I don't know if it shows up on the camera there well enough, but you know, that one's 1/2 inch 9/16. This one's 5/16, 3/8 at most. So it would be really nice to put the bigger, heavier duty one in. The other nice thing is too is that since the arm is what I want to do all the modifications to first, slotting the holes and having the nut plate would be a much cleaner, simpler installation for people, and they could just pick this up as a at the scrapyard when they pick up the spindle and all that kind of stuff, and the upper control arm and that. And then the mod for here, grinding that out a bit, filing it out, that could actually be done with a hand file and stuff. You know, using the stock one, at least with the stock one, it would it'd already be on their truck. But I don't know if you can see on here, this is the end that goes through down here. I guess it doesn't, yeah, I think so. I don't remember offhand. Anyway, it's already worn in, 1/16 of an inch there. It's not uncommon to find them worn through a lot more than that, because the bushings go bad, and then they ride metal on metal, and they could actually fail. And another reason to have the big heavy duty one on there. So getting closer. I like the idea of slotting the holes more and turning that, because bending it would not quite give me this, would not make me as perpendicular. Not only that, the people doing this would have to bend that arm, and that wouldn't, that tension rod, and that just wouldn't be as easy for some people. So it'd be better to have it, the adjustability or whatever built into the lower control arm. Alright, still working on the ball joint mod. Got a ways to go here. So thought I'd put the stock arm on, and that's basically, that's pretty close to perpendicular right there. That's at a too much of an angle that way, too much of an angle that way. Perpendicular is right about there. So the thought is if I'm going to use the stock tension control rod, a plate can be made that bolts on here that has a tab on it for the tension control rod to mount to. That would actually be pretty simple. That definitely has some merit, other than the fact that it would have to stick down at least 1.5 inches, because if you account for the travel, the downward travel here, this angle is going to get greater so I can't put it right up against it. It's got to be a bit of space there. And so then it becomes a ground clearance issue with how far this is sticking down. It won't stick down any more than a stock 521 arm. But for guys running dropped spindles, since this is ball joint, and then running small tires, the scrub line could actually be at the bottom of the thing here, which means that then any plate hanging down here would drag and grab hard. So haven't quite decided. Might explore both options. I think I'd much prefer to do the bigger arm. The only difference is, well, one of the differences is that if this arm is used, if this tension rod is used, the bracket here, that could all be laser cut, welded together and everything like that, and come with the arm. And then the stock tension rod that's on the vehicle that is being modified could be used. Then that's one more piece you don't have to go get out of the scrapyard. It's also, at this end, it would be one more thing you would not have to modify on the vehicle. But I think if I can find the bushings for it, I think the advantages of the bigger, heavier rod would far outweigh the simplicity of keeping this one. So we'll see how that works out.